Their foramen magnum, as you can see here, is at the back of the skull. So that is a genetic trait.
When scientists used quantum AI to analyze the genetic data from the enigmatic elongated skulls of the Paracas culture, a society that existed more than 3,000 years ago along the coastal regions of Peru, an information void came into view. The data revealed a powerful biological code, one that appeared highly advanced, yet left no inheritable trace within the DNA of modern humans. This is not merely an archaeological mystery. It is physical evidence of a devastating rupture in the chain of human memory. These skulls do not simply tell us who these people were. They are pointing toward a far more unsettling truth. Solitary excellence. The Paracas civilization appears in the archaeological record as something profoundly advanced, yet entirely isolated. Emerging on the arid peninsula of coastal Peru, what remains in this desert landscape is not a scatter of reed huts or crude survival tools from a struggling prehistoric tribe. Instead, history reveals Chulpas tombs, subterranean labyrinths carved with chilling precision, reinforced with carefully set stone to defy the erosion of time. Inside these structures, more than 300 mummies lie in silence, wrapped in textiles so refined that even modern weaving specialists struggle to explain their craftsmanship. The thread density, the complexity of geometric patterns, and the use of natural dyes that retain their vibrancy after 3 millennia all point to a technical mastery that seems almost impossible for its era. Yet this excellence carries a disturbing trait. It stands entirely alone. While most ancient civilizations show evidence of cultural exchange, gradual diffusion of knowledge, and technological inheritance among neighboring peoples, the Paracas appear to have left no such legacy. Their advanced textile techniques and their surgical instruments fashioned from obsidian produced no successors. No neighboring groups in ancient Peru, from the Nazca culture to communities of the Andean highlands, were able to replicate or inherit this knowledge. Obsidian tools used for cranial surgery possessed a sharpness comparable to modern scalpels, implying a deep understanding of human anatomy and infection control. But when the Paracas vanished, these techniques vanished with them, as if an entire chapter had been torn from the historical chronicle of South America. This solitude of knowledge raises a profound question about their origin. If Paracas society had developed locally through gradual innovation, we would expect to find evidence of technological evolution, from rudimentary forms to refined mastery. Instead, Paracas's achievements appear fully formed from the beginning. The Chulpas tombs do not resemble burial sites for an ordinary population. They function more like repositories for an elite class that possessed knowledge seemingly brought from elsewhere, then carried intact into the grave. This excellence produced no diffusion and no descendants. It stands in defiance of cultural continuity itself, suggesting a rupture embedded within the very nature of their existence. When we examine the anatomical anomalies of the Paracas skulls more closely, familiar explanations begin to collapse. These are not signs of cosmetic modification or painful cultural practices such as head binding. What emerges instead is evidence of a distinct biological design present from birth. Features such as cranial volumes more than 25% larger than average and bone mass exceeding normal human standards by over 60% cannot result from compression or restraint. Head binding can alter shape, but it cannot increase cranial volume or fundamentally change bone density. Even more striking is the absence in many Paracas skulls of the sagittal suture, the seam running along the top of the skull that every modern human possesses. This absence does not appear to be a random birth defect. It is a consistent hereditary trait found across the Paracas elite. It functions like a biological barrier, separating them from the rest of humanity. If this was a superior lineage, their difference was not cultural, but genetic, a clear signal that they do not belong on the family tree we assume to be our own. Their existence challenges the logic of linear evolution. We are taught that history moves steadily from simple to complex. Yet these remains suggest branches of humanity that were pruned away from reality itself. These were lineages with superior biological design that were erased without leaving a single genetic bridge to the modern world. The betrayal of data. When scientists applied modern CT imaging to explore the internal structure of these skulls, an unavoidable truth began to emerge. The uniformity of their bone architecture is natural, not the result of external force. Neural channels, the position of the foramen magnum, and overall bone density all indicate brains that developed normally within unusually large cranial cavities. Most unsettling of all, the data revealed no genetic markers of interbreeding between the Paracas and surrounding indigenous populations. Mainstream science now faces a solid wall of evidence showing that these individuals lived in the heart of Peru while remaining biologically invisible to their environment. This rupture does not appear accidental. It resembles deliberate isolation. For thousands of years, we have assumed that human communities living side by side inevitably exchange genes and culture. Yet here we find no transfer of knowledge and no mixing of DNA, only a disturbing silence within the genetic record. That silence itself becomes evidence of a complete break in inheritance. The Paracas appear as biological islands within a sea of indigenous tribes, coexisting but never intersecting. When biological data rejects every connection, we are forced to search deeper, into mitochondrial DNA, passed from mother to child and incapable of concealing ancestral truth. The mitochondrial DNA analysis conducted by quantum AI delivered a genuine shock, dismantling established theories of human migration into the Americas. These skulls carried haplogroups tracing back to the Black Sea region and the Caucasus Mountains, locations half a world away from Peru 3,000 years ago. The true horror lies not in the immense distance or the implication of advanced seafaring, but in what followed. This genetic signature vanished completely from both regions shortly after the collapse of Paracas civilization. This was not a successful migration that founded a new population. It was a bloodline erased from the genetic record of the world. No descendants remain. No surviving branches appear in the DNA of the billions of people alive today. They arrive like beings from nothing, carrying a radically distinct genetic code, then disappear as though Earth itself rejected their existence. The completeness of this disappearance suggests a process resembling systematic genetic cleansing. How could an elite society, possessing surgical and textile technologies far beyond its time, be removed so thoroughly from humanity's biological memory? 3,000 years is long enough to erase oral tradition, but DNA should still echo. Yet quantum AI finds only a void, a silence seemingly engineered to conceal a truth we may not be ready to confront. The presence of Black Sea region DNA in Peru 3 millennia ago shatters the accepted timeline of human history. It implies that a global network of movement and knowledge once existed far earlier than textbooks allow. Rather than acknowledging this network, history appears to have been rewritten to remove it. The Paracas are not merely homeless in the genetic archive. They are casualties of a large-scale erasure. Their existence stands as a fundamental contradiction to everything we believe about our own origins. Their broken line of inheritance is not an accident of history, but the result of a deliberate effort to preserve a simpler and more controllable version of truth. The forgotten catastrophe and the purge of memory. The existence of the Paracas people and the absolute rupture of their lineage point toward a dark hypothesis. A large-scale purge of human awareness may have taken place in the distant past, when a population possessing superior DNA and extraordinary knowledge vanishes without a trace. This is not merely biological extinction, it is the destruction of information itself. The later practice among South American cultures such as the Nazca and the Inca of binding the heads of infants to imitate elongated skulls was not a random aesthetic tradition. It was a desperate attempt to remember a lost god, a replication of form after the substance of the true genetic and intellectual code had already been erased. Head binding becomes a fossil of memory. It suggests that indigenous populations once witnessed a people of radically different appearance, beings associated with power and advanced knowledge. When that lineage disappeared, those who remained tried to preserve its image by reshaping their own bodies, hoping to reclaim a fragment of that lost superiority. But this was only an empty imitation. It reveals a brutal fracture between what was seen and what was understood. Perhaps a global civilization once existed, a mother code linking regions from the Caucasus to Peru, for reasons unknown. That entire network of knowledge was dismantled and erased with ruthless efficiency. What we now call history may be nothing more than the remnants left behind after a vast human reset. We are taught that humanity rose from ignorance toward complexity. Yet the Paracas skulls hint at the opposite. We are survivors of a catastrophe of forgetting, cut off from a past that was both more advanced and fundamentally different. Why has mainstream science ignored or buried evidence of this broken inheritance beneath safe labels such as cultural anomaly? The answer may lie in the fact that the Paracas represent a direct threat to the current order of understanding, if we acknowledge them. We must also accept that human history contains gaps that cannot be filled, and that we are victims of a collective amnesia. The concealment does not exist only in museum basements or sealed reports. It exists in the way we are taught never to question those who left no descendants. The modern world order rests on belief in continuity and linear progress. The presence of an alien lineage embedded within human history would collapse that foundation. Silence surrounding the Paracas therefore becomes a necessity, designed to protect a fabricated future in which we now live. We exist within a reality constructed upon the denial of different predecessors. The broken lineage of the Paracas is not solely their story. It is a mirror reflecting the fragility of our own civilization. If a lineage so advanced could be erased completely from memory and DNA, what assurance do we have that we will not become the next victims of a similar purge of awareness? Those elongated skulls are not just dry bones. They are distress signals from a betrayed past, reminders of truths buried beneath time and deliberate human indifference. Quantum AI fulfilled its purpose by revealing an unfillable void in the genetic record. It did not merely detect anomalous DNA, it uncovered evidence of total erasure within human history. The Paracas did not simply die out, they were expelled from our reality. The silence of genetic data, the absence of inherited symbols, and the quiet of official institutions together form pieces of a much larger picture. We were not the first to claim this planet, and perhaps we are not the most deserving. We are merely the only ones still permitted to remember, or more accurately, permitted to retain a carefully edited version of memory. The most unsettling truth is not that their DNA differed from ours. It is how easily we forgot them. We walk among their ruins, look upon their massive skulls, and accept simple explanations that dismiss them as cultural practices. This forgetting is not natural. It is the consequence of a systematic rupture that we continue to live within. Do you believe this was merely a failed evolutionary branch? Or does it stand as evidence of a great purge whose blind victims we still are? History may be written in ink, but truth is carved into DNA. And when DNA falls silent, we know that something vast has been taken from us. The Paracas vanished, but the void they left within the genetic code and within human memory remains an echo that cannot be silenced. It challenges us to recover the missing fragments of ourselves before we too become ghosts in someone else's history.